going to define our future. Let's begin today's topic. First of all, a very curious question is, why design thinking? Why are we saying that design is future? So according to the World Economic Forum data, it is a very astonishing thing. The data comes out to be that 65% of the children who are attending school today will graduate preparing for the function which no longer exists. We all have seen during this pandemic that how shifts happen very sudden, and 85% of the jobs that exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. And what do you think we as educators are doing? The learning outcomes these days of our students are a mix of competencies and skills. And NEP talks about the skills and competencies and the experiential learning, the joyful learning. So don't you think that the big onus comes on the education today to prepare them for the times to come? So here the design thinking comes in, because we need future thinkers, we need problem solvers. This pandemic has given a big lesson to us, and India has emerged out so victoriously that within a blink of time we were able to produce the vaccines, which most of the developing countries even could not do. So this is the power of the thinking. This is the power of problem solving. And design thinking, what it is, by now you might have guessed that it is a problem solving approach. Traditionally, if you look at our education system, what do we see? We place a big onus on the books, but the learner becomes the minuscule. But what shift the DT sees is the DT brings out the individual in focus, the learner in focus, and the knowledge is this much. Why? Because the knowledge could be gained by many sources, and it is very simple to gain knowledge these days. It is just on a click. But how to apply that knowledge? The power is invested in the learner. So we need to empower the learner. Knowledge, they can also, we need to facilitate them to take knowledge, but the task of the education is to empower the learner so that that knowledge can be actually used. So this is the shift which DT sees in focus. So if you look at the educational framework, which is our Indian educational framework, it talks about skills, knowledge, character, and empowering the learner to learn. So here the DT comes in, and if you look at the DT as the lecture will unfold, you'll see how DT will help educators in bringing all these four into the learning scenario. So now, what is design thinking? As I told you that what is the need of today is to design solutions to the pertaining problems. So design thinking is an iterative process. What do I mean by iterative? That we can go back and then come again, then we can go back, think over it and come again. So it's an iterative process where we understand the user. Because who is going to use our solutions? Who we are designing for? We need to understand the user. And it is not so that we need to go as per the theory that is being developed in books. We need to teach our children to challenge assumption. We need to teach our kids that how should they redefine their problems. Because if we need to give solution to any problem, first of all, we should understand that whether we understand the problem or still there is a gap in understanding the problem. If we fully understand the problem, then only we can design the solution. So design thinking is a completely scientific approach to design a solution to a problem. So the design thinking has various systematic steps. If we go one by one to them, first is to empathize. See, whenever we approach a problem in a family, say if I say that in a family we encounter a problem, we sit together, we design a solution for it, right? And we succeed. Why? Because it pinches. Problem hamari hai, it is our problem. So it pinches here. So we feel about that problem. That's why we design solution immediately, right? So nobody can design a solution until they feel about the problem. So design thinking, if I say, it's a human-centric approach wherein you just think about the user who is going to use your solution. So the first and the foremost step of design thinking is to empathize. That means to feel about that problem. If you feel about that problem, you understand the problem. If you understand the problem, then only you can design the solution. So first and foremost step is empathize. That means to put your feet into the user's shoe. So this is the foremost important step, to empathize. When it pinches, when you feel about the problem, you will definitely design a very good solution to it. Then the next is, I'll be unfolding these steps by taking examples also. Then we need to define problem. That means what is the problem exactly? Maybe sometimes as teachers, I am teaching a kid again and again. A kid is not so good in math, and I'm teaching every day, I'm giving lectures of math, and still I am not able to get the result out of that child. Maybe I have never thought of the child is good at studies, but maybe the environment is not conducive. Maybe there is a joint family, there is no room to study. So what I focused on with the closed mindset. I focused on the problem that I perceived is the problem, that might be the child is not good at math. But what problem actually was, the child was good at math. The learning environment was not so conducive. So he could not apply what he learned. So where I went wrong by designing my solution? Or in other words, why my solution didn't work? Why? Because I didn't get the problem right. Had my problem been defined in the right manner, the solution would, we have reached the final solution, which would have worked. So similarly, the second step is define. So first we empathize or we feel about problem, then we define the actual problem, then we ideate or brainstorm about the solutions. And when we ideate or brainstorm, remember that no solution, no idea is a bad idea. Every idea is a very good idea. So take as many ideas from your team as you can. So design thinking is a team project. Yeah, it's a collaborative project where team sits with different mindset, open mindset, and they give their ideas without any fear. Why? Because in design thinking, we believe that no idea is a small idea, no idea is a bad idea. Once we have many, many ideas, then we refine the ideas and we create the prototype of our solution. Then we test the prototype with our user. And if it works, it's very good. If it doesn't work, then we go back to the first step or second step or third step or maybe fourth or fifth step. So we can go back as many times as we feel the product is not up to the mark. So this is the design thinking blueprint. Let's take it by examples. Like, what are the benefits for students and teachers? Because we all are educators. So why should we do design thinking? So design thinking has numerous benefits to teacher and as well as to student and at large to the society. Because when we practice these type of thinking approaches, these type of problem solving approaches, then we identify problem. We reach to the root of the problem, to the crux of the problem. We use the value of collaboration. We all talk about 21st century skill, and the core skill is collaboration, communication, ideation. So what is this? These all skill automatically come in the design thinking process. And whenever we fail, we don't take it as a depressive moment. We take it as next step to success, because failures are the stepping stone to success in design thinking. So what we are doing when we are practicing design thinking is we are changing the mindset of students. We are changing the mindset of teachers. We are empowering them to believe in themselves. We are empowering them to become problem solver. We are empowering them to see beyond the box and think out of box solutions. So just let me tell you that design thinking is not really about design. It encompasses all the professions. It is not so that design thing is the designer's thing. No, design thinking is for everyone, because it is not about design. It is about the problem solving. So let's come to that. Design thinking is not a very, very novel concept. It goes back to 80s when the Kodak gave us a slogan, you press the button and we do the rest. If I talk about today's time, the personal photography, if you think back, I think we can't think of the times when photographs were not with us. So personal photography has been with us for such a long time. And now is the time, if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. Yeah. Whenever we do something, we first click a picture as an evidence. And then we deem it to be that it happened, right? So if there is no picture, it didn't happen at all. So it is like that. So when did it come? When did the average people get this ability to capture the past in a photograph? It was not since time immemorial. Yeah. Earlier, there were times when you required photographers and the big setup to get the moment captured for your rest of the life. So Kodak changed it all. How did they do it? They just gave the slogan, you press the button, we do the rest. So what did they play with? They played with the human emotions, the human sentiment. Why? Because in those times, taking a photograph was a big task, was a huge task. There has to be a complete tripod stand and a complete setup. Photographer used to be booked and they used to be called. And then we got a picture, and that took time, at least 10 to 15 days to develop that camera roll. And then we got that picture. So we could not capture each and every moment of our life. So let's look at these pictures. Was this possible if you talk about your grandparents' time? Was it such at the fingertip? Taking snaps at late at night, maybe at 2 or 3? No, it wasn't. Or when your child crawled for the first time, or when your forefathers crawled for the first time, was this so easy for our four grandfathers to take that first crawl captured in the camera? Because there was no cameraman booked for this. There was no cameraman available at 3 o'clock at the night, or 2 o'clock at the night, or 12 o'clock at the night. Yeah. So at that time, photography was not so simple. But Kodak, what the advertisement of Kodak is saying, what I'm showing you over this on the screen is the advertisement of the Kodak camera by Kodak company back in 80s. So what the captions of advertisement saying? Take snapshots at home tonight. That means they played with human intent, human emotions. Why? Because there was a emotional need that we needed to capture this moment, because that was very precious to us. So they, for the very first time, kept the user in center. They designed their entire process, starting from the ad advertisement, by keeping their user at the center. So look at all the taglines. Laugh over this years later. Who want to laugh? I don't want to laugh at this picture. This picture is not so close to my heart, but yes, close to the heart of someone. Who is that someone? Your parents, your grandparents, your relatives. Yeah. So they played with the emotion. They captured the human sense that how product works. So that's the focus, is why Kodak company became so successful, and why they are leaders in photography even till date. Why? Because they kept the user in the center, may it be their advertisement, may it be their product, or whatever may it be. They kept in each and every step of their product building, they keep user in center. So what is design thinking? Design thinking is a user centric approach, or a human centric approach. So look at this. You bought a very fine and pretty colorful dress for your child, and you made your child wear this dress for a very special occasion. But this is the picture of then times. So you know that the dress was yellow in color. You knew that the dress has this pattern. But now nobody knows. Why? Because it wasn't in color. So this was the pain when we look back at the product journey. That kitna maza aata agar ye color mein hota. Yeah. So imagine this in color. So they captured the essence of human emotions in advertising their products. So this is what design thinking is. Even in making their ad, they followed the design thinking progress. Why? Because why people will look at your ad? Why would be they interested in your product? Why would be they interested in the solution which you designed for the problem? There are ample players in the market. Why is your product so demand to be given the attention of the user? Why? Because you captured it that way. So this is one of the very simplest idea why design thinking is important. So look at this. This is not a designer's task. This is a simple ad. Yeah. Only in a lifetime, the similar ads from the past which Kodak captured to just capture or to bring the human attention in focus. So let's go back to the steps of the design thinking as we have a look at the blueprint of the design thinking, that is empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test, and iterate. So we shall look into these steps one by one with the examples. The first step is empathy. Empathy, as I mentioned earlier, unless until you feel about a problem, you can't design a solution. So the first step in designing any solution is you have to feel about the problem. Feel about the user's problem with the user's perspective. Then only you can design solution for them. So when can you feel about the problem with the user's perspective? When you observe them, when you engage with them, when you talk to them. What if our children are having some problem? What do? We talk to them. We try to bring out, we try to surface the problem by talking, by interviewing, by observing. So as mothers, as teachers, as elders, what do? We look around, we observe, we talk, we engage. With whom? With our students, with our children, with whosoever we come in contact with. So what do? When we observe them, when we engage with them, when we immerse with them, so what happens? We feel about their problem. So it's a very simple example. We can't feel what a blind person is feeling, so how can we design a product for the blind? Because we don't know what he is feeling. So for designing a product for blind, we need to empathize with blind. So how can we empathize? Whether we observe their daily routine or we engage with them. How do they do their tasks? What problems do they encounter? So if you be with them for a longer period of time, maybe for one complete day, maybe for a week or for a month, then you will understand the situations they go through. And when you understand what they go through, then only you will feel about their problem. So what you did when doing the empathy, you empathized by observing, by engaging with them, by immersing with them. Yeah. So what happened? One of the designers, one of the problem solvers, what they did. We all have seen old age people suffering with the joint pain. But how do you feel what it feels like when they grab a bottle like this with the painful joint? We don't understand. So what a designer did, they just tied many bandages on their hands so that their joints became very rigid. And then they tried to hold things, then they tried to walk around, then they tried to just move up the stairs, down the stairs, and then they understood what a problem with the what a person with the joint pain is going through at each and every step in their life. When they realized, then they designed the solution in a better manner. So the very first step of design thinking is to empathize with the user, go in the lives of user, talk to them, interview them, observe them, immerse with them. Then you will understand what they are facing and what kind of solution they need. Yeah. This is the empathy map. There are various tools to design empathy, and this is one of the tools.
Sorry to interrupt you, Miss Madhavi.
Yes.
We have 5 minutes more left. It's a 30-minute session only. As
Yeah. So this is the empathy map. This is the one of the tools of doing empathy. Similarly, this is a customer journey map to empathize. Like we all had pizzas in our pastime also, but where were the pain points? We could not customize our pizza. We could not have the payment info, and there was a long wait time. And we were happy only when we eat pizza and when we think of ordering the pizza. So the Domino's food chain, what they did, they just tracked this journey. They empathized with the user, where the user is feeling low, and they just tried to rectify that point. They built their website, and we can easily track the payment info. We can easily track the wait time, and the 30-minute delivery time came out of that. And we can easily customize our pizza. So all the pain points of the journey were converted into gain points, and the product is hit. And we all have Domino's pizza, the I think once a week or twice a week at least. So then we need to define. The second step is to define. In defining, there are various ways. If I ask you that design a vase, everybody would design a traditional vase. But if I ask you the problem, if I define my problem the other way, that design a better way to enjoy flowers at home. You might come up with the flower veins, or you might come up with some ceiling kind of structure in which the flowers can hang, like we see in the wedding function these days. So these are the things wherein we can design the various approaches to enjoy flowers. So it is a very important step. How do you define your problem? How do you see your problem? So it could be a simple problem to design a vase to it can be converted to a very nicely framed problem. Design a better way to enjoy flowers at home. So you will get ample ideas once you change your defining statement. So this is a very important step in design thinking. Then we need to ideate. Don't restrict your ideas. Yeah, let the ideas flow in your team. So this is also a very important step. And then when you ideate, then there is a person called Mr. Rao. He leaves home for the office at 5 o'clock in the morning when it is very dark. He comes back from the office at 8 when it is again very dark. And he is an old man. So he need to, when he's alone at home, so he cannot switch on the light and keep it like that, because electricity bill will go up. So the problem is, how can we help Mr. Rao in designing something so that he can climb down the stairs and climb up the stairs in a very lighted staircase manner? So the team designed various solutions, like simply carrying a torch. Is it a good idea? It's an idea, but don't grade it like a good or bad idea. Just document it. Carrying a torch, carrying a matchbox. There were many ideas given by team. But what finally came out to be building a two-way switch. Mr. Rao can leave the home while keeping the light on. When he comes down, it's a two-way switch. He can switch off the light when he comes down. So he need not to go back again to switch off the light. So it's a two-way switch, a simple solution. So this is how the various ideation process bring you to a unique and simple solutions in the design thinking process. Then you make a prototype, test it with your user, make a rough sketch of that, and try. See, this is the Mr. Rao scenario, that Mr. Rao is leaving from here. So he is switching on the light, two-way switch, and when he goes down, he can switch off the light. So as simple as that. Then you document your prototyping things with them, then you test it with your user and try to iterate. Go back to the problem, try to design different solution. So this is the bulb we all are familiar with. Yeah, and this is also the bulb nowadays which is available in the market. Had it not been the iterative process, had we been stuck and contented with the solution we designed ages before, so this bulb would not have come into the reality. Why this bulb shifted to this design? Because we continuously look back to our journey, we continuously redesign our solutions. That is called iteration. So iteration is very, very important. So this is how design thinking happens. And though the time was very short, so I tried to keep it crisp. This is again one example. There, I will take only just this last example, how design thinking is very useful in day-to-day life. There was an American designer called Deborah. Yeah. So Deborah was a designer, very 18-year-old designer. She was doing his design program with the New York University. So one day she was doing research on some other design, but one day when she came back home, she saw that his grandmother accidentally took the medication of her grandfather, because the name of the grandmother was Helen and the name of the grandfather was H. Helder. So initials of both grandfather and grandmother, their names started with H. So the prescription agency or the doctor who gave the medicine parcel to them, he just wrote H. Elder on both the medication. And by mistake, what the grandmother did, she took the medication of the grandfather. Yeah. So that became a problem, because sometimes there are very critical medications which are being prescribed. So then it struck her mind that it could be life-threatening if somebody takes medication of the other person. So what she designed specific bottles with the ring. that if in family there are 4 members, you may get these different type of rings, and you can just put the ring of that particular color in the design, and you will never just mismatch your medication. Say the red colored cap, red colored ring is for your grandmother, the yellow is for your grandfather, or maybe blue for father, or yellow for mother. So this is how she distinguished, because otherwise it was very difficult to keep the medication separate while living in one home. So this is the simple design which solved the problem, which could be as big as life threatening. So this is what the power of designing solution, keeping the user in mind. Why? Because the patient is having not so much of patience that he reads on the name and the medication name. So it is quite visible, even if we are not paying attention to the medication details. Even then it is visible that it is your medication or somebody else's medication if we put these type of designs in regular practice. So I think this is the power of design thinking, and this design thinking can be employed in each and every situation. May it be education, may it be industry, may it be designing. It's a problem solving, and problems are everywhere. So we need to build our children as the problem solvers. We need to develop our children as the designers. So there is, remember, teach your children that there is no best way. There is always a better way. So we need to iterate and design better, and better with each passing day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Madhavi. It was a wonderful topic and a wonderful session. It made us think as a moderator. I enjoyed the session thoroughly. Because of the time constraint, I'm not able to ask you so many questions. One question I would like to put across is, what is the future of design thinking in your view, ma'am?
Yeah, pardon, ma'am. Can you please come again?
What is the future of design thinking in your view?
Yeah. So as I told you that we are living in the time of uncertainties, and we all have seen in this pandemic. What is design thinking? Like earlier, the vaccine, we used to make the traditional vaccines, yeah, and traditional vaccines took so long. Being a biology faculty, I can just relate with the situation very well. Like, had it been the previous problem solving times, abhi hamare haath mein vaccine nahi hota. Yeah, so we got the vaccine, and everybody, such a large chunk of the population is vaccinated, as the government thought of, planned of. So why this could have this had happened? Because we have used the design thinking approach, and we just, because the user was in the center, and the user demand was to speedify the process, to look for the various ideation means. So we ideated, the teams ideated, and they put the user in the center, and they realized that the speed is the crux of this designing a solution. Because had there not been the speed, it had been the meaningless process. So they used the speed as their team motive, and then they ideated on various lines. The teams ideated on various lines. So we got the vaccines of various ideas, like some are the recombinant vaccines, some are the attenuated vaccines. So we have the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine, or whatever vaccines we are having, they all are designed by using different ideation approach. They are not all vaccines are same. All have a different design thinking process behind them. So all the vaccines which we see in the market today are having a different ideation process, a different ideology, and a different process of making. So this could have been only possible because of the design thinking approach, which the scientists are already having in their mind.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com, we like to thank you for coming online and giving this topic and knowledge. You shared your knowledge on this particular topic. And that's all for today, ma'am. Because of the time constraint, I have to end the meeting now. Thanks again.
It was nice talking to you all through this platform. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We are closing the meeting, ma'am. You may leave now.